In Matthew 28:18-20, Jesus gave his church their final marching orders until his imminent return. But how do we know if we're making progress in the Great Commission? Let's discuss a modern framework to help us know where we're at and where we can be headed. The 7 phases of progress is a framework that helps us assess the status of the Great Commission among a particular people or place so that we can pray, labor, and coach towards further progress. Phase 1 is adoption, whenever we accept the responsibility to go to a people or place and we begin to pray for them. Phase 2 is when we begin to go and sow the seed amongst that people or place. Phase 3 is whenever God causes that seed to grow and people believe and they're baptized. Phase 4 is whenever those believers start gathering together as a local church to obey the commands of Christ. Phase 5 is when that local church starts reproducing by sending its own believers to go and repeat phases 1 through 4. Phase 6 is whenever churches are multiplying to the 4th generation and beyond. And phase 7 is when there's a sustained gospel presence, which could be 10% of a given people or place that is actively worshiping Jesus, or multiple streams of 4th generation working together to saturate an area with the gospel of Jesus Christ. These 7 phases of progress are a framework that summarize the biblical progression of kingdom growth as seen in the book of Acts. If you recall, in Acts chapter 1, Christ gave them the task of adopting Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. As they had the opportunity, they began to share the gospel, and people were baptized, and local churches were established in Jerusalem. And then the gospel began to go out from there all the way up to Antioch. And then from Antioch, it began to spread throughout Galatia and Macedonia and Asia. And by the end of Paul's 3rd missionary journey, he said in Acts chapter 19, verses 9 and 10, that all the residents of Asia had heard the word of the Lord. If you're using a 4 fields framework, this might be a helpful way to think of the 7 phases. Phase 1, adoption, happens whenever God gives us his heart for a people or place and calls us to go there. Phase 2 happens whenever we enter and begin to sow the seed of the gospel, so fields 1 and 2. Phase 3 happens when we're entering, sowing, but also God is causing people to believe and they're taking baptism, fields 1, 2, and 3. Phase 4 happens whenever we have entered, sown the seed, baptized, and begin to gather those believers together so that they can further grow into a mature expression of Christ's body. Fields 1, 2, 3, and 4. Phase 5 is whenever we have entered, sown the seed, made the disciples, gathered them, and begin to develop leaders both locally and leaders who are going out and starting the next generation of churches to the 2nd and 3rd generation. So fields 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Phase 6 happens whenever we've entered, sown the seed, baptized, made disciples, gathered them together, and developed leaders who have developed other leaders who develop more leaders to the 4th generation and beyond. Finally, phase 7 happens when either 10% of a given people or place are worshiping Jesus, or when there's multiple streams of 4th generation that are working together to saturate an area with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thinking about the people or the place that God has called you to, take a moment and assess what is the current phase of progress among that people or place, and how can you pray, labor, and coach others to see further progress take root in the place that God has called you.